you look at the draft now, juniors are able to come down to the Senior Bowl. I mean, you guys have your finger on the pulse and absolutely destroyed it in the best way possible this year. I just want to give you your flowers as you come on, and we ain't got to talk to you in a while.
No, thanks. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. It's just such a fun weekend, man. I mean, we all get lost in the kind of the entertainment part of it, and we're just as guilty as anyone, or probably more guilty than anyone, for like feeding the draft beast. But we lose sight of the fact that it's the culmination of all these guys, journeys, and they work so hard and sacrifice, and you got all these coaches along the way that like poured into these players and family members. And to me, that's what draft weekend's all about. Every year we get to that point. It's been hype and hype and hype. And then the draft happens, and I'm like, okay, this is what it's all about.
Definitely. I know you guys are already on to next year. I said yesterday, I think you guys are already on to the 2030 class, getting guys committed there to the Senior Bowl. But Jim, just talking about the draft, obviously just happened. I mean, 775,000 people, breaking an attendance record at Detroit. I mean, we live streamed the first round. I thought aesthetically, just watching it, on TV, it was incredible. Can you give me one surprise of a guy maybe that went earlier than you thought, maybe a guy that went later? Was there one that jumped out to you?
Oh, geez. God, I should be used to answering this question. I haven't been hit with like the surprise early one. I'll say this. I think like the first round came off pretty clean. If I had to say a surprise, maybe Ricky Pearsall sneaking into the end of the first round, which was pretty awesome. The 49ers have stocked their receiver room, all with guys from Mobile. I reminded John Lynch of that after the pick. He didn't even realize that, but really happy for our guy, Ricky. And I know that he'd moved up quite a bit since Mobile. He had a great week there. He went to the combine and crushed it. But to get there in the first round, and now he can say the rest of his life his first round draft pick, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, we watched him down in the Senior Bowl and we're unbelievably impressed. I mean, David had him as one of his, sneakiest players in the draft, that somebody's going to get a good one that everybody's not looking at right now, but I know he raised his profile.
I just thought it'd be round 2.
Down there, down there in Mobile. Well, if you'd have told me Keon Coleman was going after Ricky Pearsall, I'd have put you on the first to Shutter Island. But that's why those guys have those jobs. Jim, looking at the Michael Penix pick, that's what everybody was talking about. Michael's a phenomenal player. I think he's going to have a really good NFL career. How surprised were you that the Falcons took him that early?
A little bit surprised, just really because they'd already signed Kirk Cousins, right? I probably don't have any unique insight on that, but I will say, everyone criticizing the general manager, Terry Fontenot, really that Friday aftermath, right? After the pick and then into Friday morning. I mean, that's all anyone could talk about. I'll say this, if there's a quarterback there that you think can change the franchise, you got to go get him. And a lot of the blowback was that they took him too early. And I just know from talking to people around the league those 2 weeks leading up to the draft that he wasn't getting past the Raiders at 13. Like no matter who you talk to in the league, I'm like, that's how the conversations go. What are you hearing? What are you hearing? Everybody was hearing the Raiders were taking him if he was there. So they really didn't. They took him when they had to. They couldn't, if they really liked him, they couldn't trade back and kind of monkey with that. So it'll be interesting. I think if they, the Falcons maybe were guilty of poor execution, maybe with just the communication with Mike McCartney and Kirk and those guys, but. Again, we all talk about that it's the most important position in sports, and then very few teams actually put their money where their mouth is and act on that. And now Atlanta's doubled down. They've won a couple years since prime, Matt Ryan's prime, where they have a quarterback that can go out and win games for them, and now they probably feel like they have 2 of them. So it's a better position than they've been in the last couple of years for sure.
For sure.
That's how I felt about it. It looked like a misstep in strategy, and it may still have been, but one of those ones that I think will still ultimately pay off. Kind of like when you're playing poker and you go all in and you don't have the best hand or not even close to the best hand, and then 4th Street, 5th Street hits and you end up winning that hand. But, Jim, 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks. I mean, this league is, it's clearly if you don't get that position figured out, you really can't win at the highest level. Caleb Williams, the most dynamic quarterback I thought coming out. Michael Penix Jr. was my favorite thrower. Jaden Daniels, Drake may go into tough situations there with Washington and New England, but hey, that's what happens when you go top 3. You're there to deliver for a franchise. J.J. McCarthy going 10. from our alma mater at Michigan. I thought he would have benefited greatly just from a throwing and accuracy standpoint to return to Michigan for a season. But hey, that goes out the window when you're a top 10 pick and you get a chance to play for Kevin O'Connell. It's going to be awesome there. And then Bo Nix rounding out there with Sean Payton and the Broncos. I thought maybe he would slide to the second round. Not only does he not do that, he gets to go play for an offensive mind in Sean Payton, go play for the Denver Broncos. Those 6 guys there. What are your overall thoughts, and which of these guys has the best chance to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, say, 9-10 years from now?
Well, I think history shows they're all not going to pan out, right? And you brought up a couple circumstances with Washington, New England, where they might not be set up. I mean, I'll share this story. I golfed with Drake May after the Senior Bowl, and Sam Howell was with us, ironically, and Sam was still with Washington. And just catching up with Sam, he played in the game a couple years ago. And he started every game. And I'm like, well, who's your offensive line, man? Like, I lose track of, who's on these NFL depth charts. I'm so focused on the college game. And he rattled off his 5 offensive linemen. I was like, whoa, man, you played the entire season behind that crew? I mean, and I know they picked a couple in the draft. Like, they picked a good one, Brandon Coleman from TCU in the 3rd round. But without protection, we've seen what that's done to some young quarterbacks. So we'll see. And then the Bo Nix thing, you thought he might slide to 2. I think he was Sean Payton's guy all the way.
Sounds like
I was with some of the Broncos guys at the LSU Pro Day in Baton Rouge. I was like, whatever, 6-7 weeks ago. And one of their coaches shared with me, he's like, yeah, I think Sean already has his guy. Mm-hmm. And you can understand why. I'm not comparing him to Drew Brees in a first ballot Hall of Famer. But when you just break those 2 guys down in where they are similar, there are a lot of similarities between Bo and Drew in terms of just high-end processors, very accurate, win from the pocket, football junkies. We all know that are from the state of Alabama how close, what a great high school coach Bo Nix's dad is, and the guy's just immersed in football. And I think we all know from the outside looking in what Sean Payton is made of. That's Sean Payton's guy. And Russell Wilson clearly wasn't his guy. So now he got his guy to move forward with. And it didn't totally shock me. I was hearing things the Broncos were going to try to trade back and pick up some ammunition and still take Bo. But I think when Penix went 8, they just said, let's get our guy. And again, not monkey around with it too much.
Yeah, I was hearing the same thing. I thought when they took Bo Nix at 12, I thought, man, it seems like kind of like they're just taking a quarterback who's available because they feel like they need to. And then in the aftermath, I've been hearing the same thing. No, Sean Payton, like Bo Nix was his guy this entire time. They didn't want the word to get out.
Pushing the JJ narrative.
Pushing the JJ stuff and just laughing as he kept falling to them. And that's why you didn't see them be aggressive to try and go get Michael Pittman.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, the 2 biggest smoke screens in the NFL draft were J.J. McCarthy and Kirk Cousins. Who would have known?
But funny enough, J.J. still went before that, though,
Yeah,
it's not because he fell.
It worked out.
Which that's what I was worried about, too, a little bit. But, yeah, now he's going to go play for the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell. So best possible situation.
It's going to be a great fit, I think. Jim, I want to know a guy you had there, and that's Spencer Rattler, who's at the Senior Bowl. Ended up going in the 5th round. Adam Schefter came out on the TV and said some pro scouts were worried about his attitude down the stretch. We all remember the Netflix series. You spent some time around him. How do you think Spencer Rattler has grown from that person back in the day?
Yeah, that was a surprise for me. Just talking to teams, again, over the last couple of weeks when they were tying things up. And this is with teams that didn't need a quarterback. Like, I don't even ask my buddies about, positions where I know they could be drafted. So I was talking to a lot of teams that were good at QB about, our guys, Nix and Penix and Spencer and Pratt. I really thought that he was going to go on day 2. So for him to get to 5, that was a little surprising. I can't believe any teams would have concerns with Spencer and that Netflix thing. I mean, I'm not going to speak for you guys. I know I'm glad I didn't have cameras on me when I was 17 years old.
Me too.
I probably would have, said and done some regrettable stuff. He's clearly grown from that, learned from that. Just talking to, Shane Beamer back at SEC Media Days. That's when I met Spencer I guess the second time. I did meet him at Manning Camp last summer. But he's grown a ton, and nothing he did behind the scenes in Mobile would lead me to believe otherwise. I think he's ready. To me, if I were a team, rather than question how he acted 5 years ago, I would be concerned about the growth that he made. And I think it's awesome that this guy's battled some adversity and come out the other side. I think that's why we've seen a lot of quarterbacks fail over the last 5 to 10 years. Just look at it. They're guys that have kind of cruised through life and things have been easy for them. They've always been the stud quarterback. They get to the NFL, they get smacked with some adversity and they don't know how to respond to it. So I see what he went through as a good thing. I mean, think about this. How many kids when they're like 18 and 19 have to be reflective and look in the mirror? Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of grown men that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s that want to look in the mirror and really face, maybe some flaws in in themselves. And Spencer had to do that at a really young age, man. I give him credit. Yeah. Not many people want to do that, and he had to do it. So, and I think he landed in a great spot. He and I spoke after the draft. I told him, man, I know you wanted to go earlier than that, but it's more important where you go than when you go.
Yes.
And I think he ended up in a really good spot.
Man, yeah, if they had a documentary on me when I was 17, I'd have got it drafted all right, but it had been to the military. Jim, last question for you. Jim Nagy here, Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, does an incredible job. One of our favorite guys to go see, one of the most smoothest and organized events you're going to see down there in Mobile. Jim, last question. This crop of quarterbacks, we just had a huge class go. Looking right now, Carson Beck, is he kind of the top shelf right now that everybody's looking at, or is there a couple other guys that may be ahead of him?
Well, he's the only one I feel any good commenting on, Jake, because he's the only one I've really seen. I went to the Georgia spring game a couple weeks ago, and he had a really good afternoon, including like a game-tying drive where he threw a money touchdown. A kid made a great play in the end zone on it too. The receiver did, but no, it's a good list. I posted that list yesterday on social. I mean, a lot of names, obviously. I mean, all these guys are staying in school, so there's a lot of names that people are going to recognize, and Quinn Ewers is going to be up there, and I think we just have to see what names elevate. Well, guys on our staff really like this Donovan Smith at the University of Houston. We have some really good feeling on him inside the building right now. So, and then Riley Leonard, went from Duke to Notre Dame. So there's going to be some guys up there, but there's always guys that elevate too. Kenny Pickett's and the Joe Burrows and Mac Jones. I mean, those guys all, kind of rose up that last year. So we'll see. We're looking forward to learning a whole new bunch of names, man. I am totally behind on this class. I got to get caught up.
Well, I know you guys are diving into the tape. Jalen Milroe is going to be an interesting one too. But Jim, brother, thanks so much for joining us. I know how busy you guys are. I know it's you maybe a second for you guys to catch your breath right after the draft, but I know y'all hit the ground running. We can't wait to see you again this year in Mobile, man. And thanks so much for getting up with us, brother. And congratulations on just another fantastic showing and just another notch in the belt of why the Senior Bowl is the college prep course of the NFL.
Well, thank you, guys. Hopefully we see you down here in the summer for our Hall of Fame event and the golf tournament in June.
Cool. We'll be there. Appreciate it, Jim. YouTube, what's up? We are this close to 100 trillion subscribers. You could be the 100 trillion. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because we got a special reward for you.